look at that. We did that in unison. Oh,
hey.
It's kind of cool. All right, let me bring my script up. Maybe I won't bobble it this time. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1.
Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. It's a podcast where we break down and celebrate the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. We are in the midst of Season 1, dedicated to reanimating young Frankenstein. Now, I'm your host, I'm Alan Sanders.
And I'm your co-host, Walt Murray.
And joining us once again from his playground that I have had a lot of time playing in, at least listening, eavesdropping. I'm the kid on the outside of the fence saying, guys, can I come in and play too? We have Tom Taylor with the Indiana Jones Minute, among others. Welcome, Tom Taylor.
Oh, thank you. I should tell you, there's a gate like 5 feet that way. You don't have to go over the fence or anything. You just come on in and play. It'll be good.
Every time I'm listening to one of your shows, and you guys are all cutting it up, and you're talking about some of the things that I have those exact same memories from my own childhood. I'm like, how come they didn't pick me? I'm always picked last. You go long every time we are playing football. Okay, yeah, you go here, you go long. Keep running
real long.
Keep running.
How come you never throw it to me? Because you can't catch.
Aw.
Yeah,
this is getting painful.
It is. It's too. Well, you guys actually let's talk just for a minute, because we have you as our guest for just 2 more episodes. You guys are all friends, but you and Jerry were friends growing up, and then Pete and Jerry became friends in college. So how did all 3 of you decide that the 3 of you were good enough friends to do your own podcast?
Pete Mummert. I think he contacted me first. I knew Jer from way back when, from like childhood. Jer and Pete knew each other from college, and then I only really met Pete at, Jer's wedding, like 10 or 15 years ago or something. But, Pete and I have been sort of pals, and we've both been fans of the Star Wars Minute. And, when the Star Wars Minute said, hey, other people could do these shows too, and here's how. Pete said, hey, you, me, and Jer should do Raiders. That'd be awesome. We could do Raiders Minute. I'm like, okay, sounds good. So that's kind of how that started. And thus a 3-way bond was forged.
Now, I have to ask this because, I kind of get the raised eyebrows from the significant other from time to time about how much of this is actually eating into what would be more productive use of my time. So
right.
How do you guys, especially you with 4 podcasts, manage that relationship?
I'd love to find out.
Okay, so you're in the same boat. I'm not trying to call out wives or anything, but they don't seem to appreciate necessarily the things that turn us on.
My wife just completely gave up on any productive use of my time years ago, so I got a good pass.
Yeah, there is a fine balance to be struck somewhere. Like, we it'd be easy to say, hey, we're just going to record every single night of the week and just do a little bit at a time, whatever. And like, especially Pete and I are like, nope, that's, we have family lives. We got to, come on, let's be reasonable. But my wife is also very nice and very supportive and very, very patient, we'll say. Let's say she's patient.
I may have had a breakthrough at my house. Well, you don't know anything about this yet, but I think I have a breakthrough.
She broke your stuff and threw you out.
She broke.
We knew that was coming.
No. Since she is a personal trainer, she started thinking. She said, "You know what? If I can't beat them, I'll join them." And she said, what if I did my own podcast talking about the benefits of things like health and fitness, but maybe it's just an episode a week. She's got a friend of hers who does videos for young moms with toddlers and how you can still be fit and do exercise while trying to keep up with the Rugrats. And of course, my wife, all of ours are pretty much, self-sufficient. So she's talking about, hey, if you're 50 and 60 and now you're getting your grandchildren and you can't pick them up because you haven't done any workouts. She's like, what do you think about that? And I said, I think that's brilliant, honey. I support you 100%.
Absolutely. That's great.
So now the problem is going to be much like Tom has found out. If I'm editing now 2 podcasts, there goes what little sleep I thought I was getting.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
I don't know about when you do it, Tom. I think you and Pete, you actually share the editing, correct?
We do, yeah. We trade off. And I find that I'm often just doing it at work during lunch and stuff. I just hide myself in a corner and just take whatever free time I have and keep at it.
Oh, that's cool. Normally,
keep the tide at bay.
My wife is one of those people who needs 8 hours of sleep, and for some reason, I've been one of those people. I prefer 4 or 5. I hate sleeping. I feel like I'm losing. Like I could be doing something more productive. And so that's when I find myself editing. The problem is I also have to be at morning radio ready to go by 6 a.m. So what that usually means is when I decide a marathon session keeps me up till 1 o'clock in the morning, then I might have an issue first thing getting up for a 6 a.m. broadcast.
That's rough.
It is tough. All right, well, enough of the segue. We need to get down to what's going on here in minute number 49 of Young Frankenstein. We continue at the beginning of this minute with the tantrum that Dr. Frankenstein is doing, and we even hear Inga have. I think Inga's got a really funny line here. She doesn't think it's funny herself. She's delivering it very serious, but I think it's funny. And we will end with an angry town hall meeting. Apparently, the homeowners association has problems with what they're doing at Castle von Frankenstein. So let's start off with the continuation of this tantrum. Tom, we talked about this. The setup was there. We get the glimpse of it, but the idea that you're going to have this absolute meltdown hissy fit, does that bring the comedy back for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is brilliant. This is just glittering Gene Wilder breakdown. Yeah, and there's his breakdown, his performance, and the fact that he's attacking a corpse. I mean, yeah, Terry Garr spells it out pretty clearly in a couple of seconds, but that he's taking out his rage on a dead body is pretty amazing. That's like a beautiful element to it.
Well, and I kind of got caught by the line that Dr. Frankenstein has right there at the beginning. He says, "What are you doing to me? What are you trying to do to me?" Again, this all comes back to him and his narcissism and his. I mean, he's full Frankenstein now. He's has jettisoned his denial of who he is and everything else, and
all sense of reason is gone.
It is gone. Mm-hmm. I mean, his mind has blown a gasket at this point.
But you know what I think is interesting is it's not even the regression of losing control of the intellectual side. He throws a toddler-style tantrum when he starts beating on the guy's chest. He's like, you brute, you vicious brute. I mean, it's like the scene in, kind of reenacting to it, in a sense, of in Blazing Saddles when they spill into the other, studio. But I mean, here he is. He's beating on the chest of this guy. And what's funny is, of course, we talked about last minute, Peter Boyle actually had a protective barrier. You can actually see it shifting a little under his coat to try to keep him safe.
He is really beating the tar out of the whatever the barrier is. This is about Dr. Frankenstein, who transitions to become Dr. Frankenstein. This is about him, and this is about his, narcissism, and he is the center of the universe here, and he just can't accept the fact that this didn't work, and that he was not able to reanimate life.
He went into this thinking he was about to have this amazing breakthrough, this amazing success, and it's just a total failure.
and he can't handle it. Him. Yeah, and he says things that you would think, if some close relative had just died or something, that, I don't want to live. And, I mean, he is really melting down.
Yeah. Mama.
Well, again, going back to, he's throwing a toddler-style fit. I mean, this is something I imagine a child doing. He's acting very much like a petulant child.
He is.
Yeah. Which is always funny if you're not the parent watching it, having to deal with it.
Yeah, and because you just kind of step back and
I don't mind somebody else's parents going through it.
Right.
Certainly,
I found that kids crying, especially when you know that it's like over absolutely nothing, for some reason, always is hysterical to me. It's like I'm still like sitting on the sidewalk just sobbing because a ball rolled away or something. You're like, there's something just funny about that. The kid's fine. He's going to forget about this in a minute, but right now he's screaming his head off, and it's funny.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because kids think that this is the end of everything when they drop their ice cream cone or whatever. Adults kind of go, I hate that happened, but there'll be more ice cream, and I'll just move on with my day. But he really is melting down just like a kid. Like, his whole universe just imploded around him.
Now, have you ever, as an adult, thrown a hissy fit like this? Do you want to admit it?
Oh, me? No, absolutely not. No, I would never act like this.
I have only once, and this was recently, And it's probably dealing with the college-age student who thinks they know everything now. Yeah. I actually did what I thought was the Daffy Duck, jumped up twice in the air to stomp my feet both down as hard as I could. I was so angry. And I'm like, Then I stopped myself and go, I just did a Daffy Duck.
You're despicable.
I just did a Merry Melodies. Why you stop it?
Well, I am.
That's incredible.
I manage a couple of people at my office and manage people who are out of our office. And
I don't know if Tom knows what you do.
We talked about it
off the air?
Off the air a little bit, that I'm a private investigator, and I manage the private investigations group at our company. And something had happened, and it was ironic because one of the employees had just said earlier in the day, I've never really seen you mad. And I let this guy have it. I mean, I probably more than I should have. So
you let him have it because he told you he'd never seen you mad?
No, I'm sorry. It was because it was not the person who had said that.
The way you're telling that story, I'll make sure to never say that.
Don't ever say you haven't seen me mad. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You wouldn't like me.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Are you okay, Bill?
But a couple of people were in my office when I started chewing this person out, and I knew I had gone too far when they both walked out of my office and down the hall. And I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
I got to catch my breath. I mean, this person had really, they had earned it. But I've had one or two of these in my adult life.
When you get, let me ask Tom, what about you? Do you have any Daffy Duck moments in your life?
I'm trying to think. Not in adulthood. I'm sure like through my teen years and stuff, yes, but I'm trying to think of a good one and I can't really. I feel like when I get really furious, I just kind of like keep it inside where it can do the most damage.
That is really the healthy way to handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, generally that is my coping mechanism, and then it comes out as passive-aggressive behavior later. But
exactly.
I found myself when this happened, I actually had to stop, and I did say to myself, I just lost my and I may have been 100% right about what I was trying to get across, but at that point, it was irrelevant. I had been reduced to a 3-year-old throwing a tantrum.
Right.
So I can identify somewhat with the doctor here, but it only took my oldest college student to bring that out of me.
Well, and somewhere between that and where Tom is of just filing everything away for a later implosion is really the healthy place to be. And trying to find that is the challenge.
Now, the flip side of this, of just anger, is when I do this, it's gone. I don't go back and relive it. Right. And there are too many people I know that once they decide to pop, they bring back everything they've been trying to keep under control, comes back out with it.
Yeah. And it seems like that's what's happening with him, because in the beginning of the movie, he definitely seems like, the very keep it inside, don't show the mania kind of guy. Like kind of very cerebral, very collected.
Yeah, you can tell it's bubbling under the surface, but he's keeping it down.
Right, and now it's just bubbling over and
if there was
steaming out in every direction.
If there was any doubt of what he was trying to keep repressed or suppressed in his background or his family history or who he wants to be versus who people keep telling him he's going to be, it's completely out here. Whatever safety mechanisms he's had, they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's off the rails at this point.
And I do think it's funny that Terry Garr has a line here. While Dr. Frankenstein is strangling the already dead corpse that they dug up, she says, "Stop it, you'll kill him." And I think it's hysterical because her naivete, it's not that she's dumb. We already know she's not dumb. It's just, but she's got that sweet innocence to her character. And when you see somebody doing this, your first thought is, don't, you're going to kill him.
Right. Right.
That's kind of the problem here.
He's
the guy's
dead.
Crazy enough to attack a corpse, and now she's deeply confused. All her cues are off.
None of it is making sense. Up is down, left is right. What is this Mitzelplick world we've just jumped into?
Yeah, and that is true. None of this makes sense. It is all insane.
And then right on top of her, he's saying, you'll kill him. He immediately jumps to, I don't want to live. Do you hear me? I do not want to live.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. I'm checking out.
Everything I've worked for the last 2 days has just imploded on me.
Oh, yeah.
I tried once and I'm done.
And honestly, timeline in the movie, they just found How I Did It by Victor Frankenstein, like 2 days ago.
Right.
Yeah.
This is kind of he's kind of gone off the deep end very short period of time.
They didn't have to build the equipment. They didn't have to buy a lab. They didn't have to buy a crazy castle. They didn't have to move somewhere else in the world to do this. Yeah, I mean, it was all there for him, and all he had to do was be crazy enough to go do it.
Yeah. You think he would just be planning on, fine-tuning and trying again, but no. He's going berserk.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Why? Okay, so maybe go back to the notes. Walt, he's all in when he finds the book. Now he's all out. There is no in-between with him, right? There is no middle ground.
No, there is no middle ground.
Because you would think the scientist in it would say, okay, I either missed a step, maybe the storm wasn't powerful enough, maybe the equipment needed a tweak. You would think there'd be that logical, the scientific method. Okay, what did we do wrong? Let me go. I'll go consult the notes. This isn't like this 500th failure in a row where he's finally lost it. This is the first.
Right, and I would kind of think, well, this equipment's been sitting idle for 40 years. Maybe there's something in it that needs some tweaking. Maybe the body was too decomposed already. Mm-hmm. There's something here that.
But he doesn't. There is no middle ground. He is definitely. He's throwing his tantrum. He's ready to end his life. It's all over now. It does sound like a teenager, actually.
It does.
3-year-old throwing, or a teenager throwing a 3-year-old tantrum. I hate you. I never want to live.
Oh. Yeah. And why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
This isn't even like the science experiments that we did in high school, where can we make the foam bubble over the thing, or can we make the volcano explode, or whatever. This is the universe striking at him.
Yeah, he takes it like it's all about him.
It is all about him.
Yeah.
Let's go back for a second then into this movie. We talked about Elizabeth on the platform, that she was a definite narcissist. It was all about her. And he was all up in that. He was like, whatever he had no sense that she was pushing him off, or, he's all into Elizabeth, right? Is it because is there underneath that he, as a narcissist himself, identifies with yet another narcissist?
Oh,
maybe they just kind of resonate together. And
because I always thought he was the guy that was picked last for kickball too, and so when you've got a hot socialite who's interested in you, you're going to do whatever it takes to keep her. But now I'm wondering, is it part of his narcissism to surround himself with somebody like her?
Yeah, it's kind of all about you. It's all about me. It's all about us.
Because obviously, if he goes to a party, I mean, if he was let's assume he was picked last for kickball. Coming back to his 10-year high school reunion, where he was like always picked on in the hall, stuffed head in the locker. You show up with like the hottest, most dazzling, sophisticated-looking woman in the room. Now you got all these guys going, "Wow, dude, you like score."
Yeah,
and that's what he's thinking about.
I'm a doctor, and
I'm a doctor. I'm famous. Look at my hot wife. I mean, it is all about him.
Yeah,
yeah.
I just realized that now. Thanks to Tom Taylor and you, I suddenly have a new appreciation for where we are in minute 49.
Well, and that's what Frankenstein is not about the monster as much. The meat of Frankenstein is the insanity of Dr. Frankenstein.
Right. The creature actually should be our sympathy, and we should pity and feel bad for this thing that had no say-so in how he showed up.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It's Dr. Frankenstein in the original, and even in Mary Shelley's book, that he's the monster. He's the monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got henchmen working with him, but this is about him.
Yeah.
Wow. I love when we get those profound moments that I have to go back and pull all that dead air out.
And we're done. It's a wrap.
Well, we should remind our audience, if they missed it last week, what I think is still, and it blows me away because Hollywood can set such a cultural mindset that is indelible. You just assume that that's just how it is. Mary Shelley, in her novel, never once explained or showed how the doctor reanimated the creature. There was no electricity. There was no lightning. There was no table being raised into the heavens. That was a total Hollywood depiction of what they wanted as a method of channeling the life back into somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot often said about, the book was better, the movie ruined stuff. But, when in cases like this where you have to, there's no way they're going to make a movie of Frankenstein and not show the monster become reanimated, or, not show the mechanism behind that or anything. And they are going to do something amazing and dramatic and splashy and lightning filled and stuff. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's just, I'm still, I guess it takes me a little unawares because we just sort of accept things. And I've just always accepted. And if you look at from the first iteration all the way through to when Scooby-Doo would have mad scientist labs, there's always electricity arcing somewhere in the mad scientist lab. He could be building a neutron bomb. He could be, creating a creature or trying to figure out how to travel through time, but it's somewhere you've got electricity sparking in the background.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like it's a trope for the mad scientist. You've got to have you got to have the boiling, kettles of whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. You got to have smoke coming out of it. You've got your Bunsen burners going. Nobody's monitoring it. It would have dried out long ago because of just evaporated. But it doesn't matter as long as they're all bubbling and you've got electricity arcing. You immediately know you're in a mad scientist lab.
Yeah. He just switches lights and knobs.
Well, when you go to mad scientist school,
well, apparently that may be where you go to Transylvania for mad scientist.
Yeah.
I'm a third-year mad scientist student here.
Yeah.
Oh, so your third year, you're starting into electricity.
Yeah.
One more credit, and then I'll be insane.
Did you get the latest book, Your Lab and You?
Yeah. Well, he didn't get to go to mad scientist school because he's not quite mad enough.
Yeah.
It's a mad scientist.
He's still got his feet a little bit in.
He's on the 2-year plan. His parents are so embarrassed at parties.
Yeah, he's just going to be a henchman.
We do get this from time to time. Marty Feldman is allowed to, and Gene Wilder's character, I think, has done it somewhat, like letting us in that he knows there's an audience watching him. But I think Marty Feldman's character of Igor is the only one who legitimately keeps breaking the fourth wall and talks directly to us. And as the doctor is in the midst of being carried out, this is hysterical because normally Igor, who's cutting the jokes and doing something silly or ridiculous, he actually is trying to almost apologize to the audience watching. And he looks at the audience and he's like, yeah, sure. Quiet, dignity, and grace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't decide if I like this line or not. It feels a little bit like the scene was perfect without this line. And without him, explaining that, he was just talking about quiet, dignity, and grace, and now he's gone berserk. I'm not sure I needed him to explain the joke to us.
Didn't need to have it articulated?
Yeah.
Well, I kind of wondered if it wasn't, we had such a heavy few minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
If it wasn't
That's
almost
true.
like a reminder that, hey, this is a comedy. Don't forget about that. This is a comedy.
Right. This guy's not going to go kill himself.
Yeah.
He's just freaking out.
Because we're about to also have another minute of seriousness. Well, the rest. A few more seconds. I'm trying to think of the timing here, but we've got a little bit more serious stuff coming before we get to another humorous moment. So it is almost a reminder, and I agree with you. I don't think it needed to be thrown in there, but they needed to do something to remind us that it is a comedy along with a serious monster movie.
Yeah, that works.
I kind of like it because it does. Well, first of all, like I said, I've always liked watching Marty Feldman. Whenever he's on screen, I find myself drawn to what he's doing. But I do like it because we know from the behind the scenes and talking with Mel Brooks and company that often if they went to a close up, it was because they had a ruined last few seconds of the long shot or the medium shot because of either cracking up or losing it. And this might have been one of those moments where we need something to still transition us out, and this is all I've got. So I'm going to use Marty Feldman kind of addressing the audience like, yeah, sure, quiet dignity, yeah.
Right.
Because as soon as they get off screen, we're moving right into the next, a completely different scene out of the film. We've got the fade to black from that close-up, and we go straight to our town hall meeting. Before we move into this, Tom, did you have anything more about the little tantrum before we move to the town hall meeting?
No, I mean the mama is hysterical. Mama, we've already said it, but that bears repeating.
That's great.
That's great.
Well, I think the only time I've noticed them break the fourth wall is in the relationship between Igor and Frederick. When Igor hands him the cane and Frederick's going down the steps, of course he kind of breaks the fourth wall there because he looks at the camera.
But he never addresses us.
He doesn't address it, but it's like, I just got had.
Right. He looks out as though he realizes there's other people watching this play out. Like he's acknowledging, hey audience.
It's a subtle thing.
I just got burned by Igor.
And then Igor, well, I think Igor does break the fourth wall when he's in the Brain Emporium and drops the brain on the ground.
Yeah, just last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess Igor's always involved when they break the fourth wall.
He's the only one who officially addresses the audience.
Yeah.
Looking directly into the camera. Yeah. Every now and then you get Gene Wilder looking askance the camera, and he's doing it almost like he's acting for the audience that he knows is there.
Right. Yeah,
but Igor talks directly to us.
Yes, he does.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Quiet dignity. Eh?
Yeah, right.
When we moved,
he's almost like our host.
Yeah, the MC for the
yeah, good point.
When we move into the town hall, and this is something that watching this movie, going back to it, because this wasn't among my top 5, always going back to like it was for you, Walt. So I almost had forgotten. Oh yeah, we're not in the castle the whole time. We're actually now somewhere else in Transylvania, and they're having this angry town hall meeting. And it reminded me that there is a history here, and the townspeople have long memories for the name Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And I don't want to jump ahead to the
No,
next
don't
minute,
jump
so
ahead.
I can't. Okay, so
there's rules we have to follow here.
Yes, but I love that they do acknowledge that they've had some other issues with the Frankenstein lineage.
I'm looking at the script, because the script has some language or some dialogue that doesn't actually make it initially, because what we're supposed to see here is, according to what they wanted to film, is as the camera pushes in, the elders wear their elder hats with tassels, and whenever a villager wishes to speak, they're supposed to raise their hand. So that's just in the description. But it says a heated argument is in progress, and the first elder yells, "Bull-shees!" And that doesn't make it in the film. And apparently whatever he's saying, bull-shees, too, and that's exactly how it's spelled, S-H-E-I-S-E, bull-shees. I'm not editing for podcast. That's exactly what it says in the script. The first villager who's being admonished is like, "But it's true, sir, they're doing it again."
Yeah.
Now, I recognize the voice of the one actor in this scene who talks second, but do you have a note on this first guy who actually starts to address what is basically an angry group?
Yes. So the two town elders here are two gentlemen who we probably recognize if we were students of that film era, Barry Kroger and Arthur Mellett. And I believe you know Arthur Mellett from one of your favorite movies.
Oh, yeah. Growing up as a kid, watching Mary Poppins, and he was the son of the aged bank owner who, ironically, was played in multiple roles, was played by Dick Van Dyke in makeup.
Yeah.
But he's the guy who was the spokesperson sort of for his dad. And I recognize the timbre of his voice in this scene when he's trying to raise it to address the crowd is the same level when his father starts laughing about the joke in Mary Poppins about a wooden leg named Smith, and he starts going,
"Oh yeah, yeah,"
and he starts floating as they do when they start laughing and they're finally embracing their childhood again. And he's like, "Daddy, come down!" I was like, "Oh my God, that's the voice. That's the same guy.
That's the one. That's the one."
But yeah, that's the skinnier of the two elders. So if his voice sounds familiar, he's the son of the bank owner in Mary Poppins, and among other things, but that's where I most readily recognized him.
Well, he was also in a ton of other things. He was in the TV show Dallas. He was in the movie Hook, which I was not a big fan of.
You talking about the Spielberg Hook?
Yeah.
Like Hook?
Yeah.
Like the worst Spielberg movie ever made, Hook?
Exactly. That piece of garbage.
First rule about Hook is you don't talk about Hook.
You don't
I was going to say, I almost didn't mention it because it's so bad. He was also on St. Elsewhere, the 70s, 80s TV show. And these were all bit parts. He wasn't, these were all like one or two offs. MacGyver.
So he always played sort of like a character actor.
He did. And one movie, or one show that I wanted to mention that he was in that you may or may not remember, Bosom Buddies.
I remember Bosom Buddies. That's where Tom Hanks
got his start there. Yeah, and I don't know that he'd want to admit
Peter
that.
Scolaro.
Yep, Peter Scolaro. Yep. But he was on a couple episodes of that. And so he was all over the place in the 70s and 80s. And he had 137 total credits.
Wow. Working actor.
So he was a working actor.
All right, so we often dive down rabbit trails when you say things that remind me of my childhood. The show Bosom Buddies, I knew it opened with the Billy Joel song, and I wanted the Billy Joel album. But my mom and dad were not going to buy me the album because of some silly television show. So I had to take my tape recorder and put it up against the TV to record that song to get as much of it as I could, and I just played it and played it and played it and played it because that's the only way I could have that song.
That's a great album. Just on the quality of the album, they should have bought that for you.
They should have. Well, my mom and dad, they weren't so into buying the music. I mean, they're like, spin the 45s that we have upstairs on your record player. You know? I grew up listening to 45 singles that my mom and dad had growing up as teenagers. So I grew up listening to everything from, the Beatles to Elvis to, what's Johnny Horton, The Battle of New Orleans. And, so I would have these 45s I'd play day in and day out in my bedroom because my mom would let me play with her records, but they would never take me to go buy an album. They're like, "You're too young to have an album." No, wait, I'm getting sad.
I did the exact same thing, by the way, with take the Casio recorder and hold it up to the TV.
Oh, yeah.
And I had entire episodes of like WKRP and things like that that I now today know by heart because I only listen to them like over and over again.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned WKRP. Barry Kroger is the other town elder there. His last credit is 1978. He played Mr. Roosevelt on an episode of WKRP in Cincinnati.
Wow. Very cool.
Which was one of my favorite shows.
And I think, I was just looking at IMDb, I think Arthur Mallet is on there too, on WKRP at some point.
He was, and they weren't on the same episode. I was hoping that they were, but yeah, he also had a WKRP credit as well.
Well, talk about serendipity. We go down this rabbit trail, and it actually leads us right back to young Frankenstein.
See?
Yes, it does.
It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Right? At some point, everything loops back 6 degrees or less back to young Frankenstein.
Absolutely.
I like that. Kind of makes me... Okay, I'm happy again. My sad bell now didn't go off.
Oh, good.
That's good.
See, I got the sad bell from you guys, because you guys... I actually have been saying that lately on the radio, and people are like, that's funny. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not telling you where I got it.
Awesome.
We'll be talking about news or something, and then somebody says something about, yeah, they passed. I'm like, oh, sad bell.
Wow, maybe it'll become a national thing.
Yeah, you've
sweep the nation.
The zeitgeist of radio speak.
That's right.
Yes.
And I just used the word zeitgeist.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
You've been holding that one for a while. I mean, I know you've been looking for
they always call me Alan Shakespeare on that other show that I'm on because of my language.
That's right.
They say I'm too flowery and ebullient.
Here's something.
Yeah. All right. So as we get into this, obviously we're having a town hall discussion about, and it's easy enough to figure out. We don't need to have all the detail. They did trim this down a bit from the script, but it's obvious they're upset about the new owner. They call him the new owner. The new Frankenstein's back in town, and they immediately assume he's got to be up to his family's old tricks.
Yes, and they even mentioned that this has happened 5 times before. Like, when are these people going to learn their lesson? And this guy's like, oh no, I'm sure it'll be fine this time.
Right.
He's given us no indication to think that these same things are going to happen again.
Yeah, you wonder how the city's even standing at this point.
Yeah.
There's not much left of Transylvania.
But that was just a great line. This has happened 5 previous times before, but I'm sure this is going to be great.
Well, I got a question here, because the second elder, our friend from Mary Poppins, says, oh, Tosh, this man is different, I tell you. You can see that just by talking with him for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
When did this happen?
I was going to say, I don't remember them talking
to him. When did he meet with the town elders and have we just have to assume that at some point there was like, hey, welcome to Transylvania. Here's your welcome basket.
Exactly. Yeah, they brought us some apples and some peaches and some Triscuits.
We're here with the welcoming committee. Thanks for choosing Transylvania as your new place to live.
Well, I was wondering if the script had given any indication that they had spoken before.
No, not at all. We just immediately have, and I can give you some of the lines that you'll realize are not in the movie. But, we start off, as I said, with bullshies. First villager says, but it's true, sir, they're doing it again. And the first elder says, vicious rumors and superstition, I will not have the townspeople getting all their old fears aroused because 1 or 2 of you thought, and air quotes, thought he saw or thought he heard. I mean, he says, damn it, man, we'll have a riot on our hands. And then the second villager raises his hand and he goes, yes, Carl. He goes, well, sir, I'm not superstitious and I'm not given to vague fears, but on my way home last night, I saw what used to be the old laboratory fairly bursting with flashing lights and electrical sparks going every which way. To which the second elder goes, poppycock! It wasn't poppycock, sir. It was real. Willem here was walking right beside me and he saw it too. And so they go, well, is this true? And he goes, yes, sir. It's just as Carl here says. It was real enough, as real as you and me. And that's when we get into the, oh, Tosh, this is different. I can tell you just by talking to him for 5 minutes. So they cut all this out about seeing the sparks and the lab and this corroboration. They go straight to the elders going, no, we're not going to go down this path again.
Yeah, that's probably pretty wise. That's a good trim. We didn't really need all that, I don't think.
I don't think so either. Now, I do think it's interesting that the family name, I guess we all get branded by our family names, don't we, Walt?
Yeah, we do.
I mean, sometimes it's both good or bad.
Yes, we do.
Because we do have the guy say, he's a Frankenstein, sir, and they're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of ominous.
Well, yeah, he's not wrong.
He is not
wrong. He doesn't know that he's spoken rather prophetically at this point, but he's not wrong.
No.
After 5 times, it stops being a stereotype, and you're like, well, listen. Fool me 5 times, shame on us.
Yeah, you would hope that they would learn at some point.
Isn't that where they say, that's where cliches come from? I mean, if it
right.
didn't, how could it be a cliche? I mean, it must have been true at some point. It can't be just cliches. It had to exist for real. So anyway, well, we do have this argument going on, and I do have a note here about if you notice the dialect of people in Transylvania. Now, this is Romania.
Yeah.
Where at the you would expect it to sound almost that sort of Eastern European, sort of very close to Russian, very Slavic. Instead, that's very much a Cockney style accent, almost blue collar British accent. And I've got a note here. Young Frankenstein spoofed the 1931 original right down to its Cockney accents. Though Frankenstein was made in America and set in Germany, the cast was British. So the director, Mel Brooks, says, I tried to get everybody to talk with a British accent. Mel Brooks very specifically was quoted as saying, I wanted to mock the idea that even though we're in a different country, everyone here speaks with either an American or a British accent, except for Inga, who, of course, has a German accent.
Right.
She's the only one with a German accent, and even though the original took place in Germany, we're actually in Transylvania, which is Romania. It's all over the place.
Okay.
Well, this guy, this townsfolk guy who goes on his mad tear, he's like, he's much more Cockney, like you said, kind of blue collar, kind of England.
Oh yeah, and he's angry. He's really angry about this playing out in his backyard, and he's adamant that something has to be done. And you see he's addressing the entire crowd, which is noticeably absent of any females. It's just an all male gathering.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of the rules of the homeowners association. Only the head of household gets to show up or something.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, and it kind of stands in contrast to what we were talking about originally when they showed the classroom at the medical school. It was very obviously 1971 or
74.
74 because there were women in the classroom and the hairstyles and everything. Well, this is definitely a throwback to an earlier
it
time.
does not look like we're in the 70s Transylvania. This looks like we are in 18-something.
Yeah.
It doesn't look anywhere close to contemporary.
No, because there are no women. The clothes are very dated, and it feels like the 1930s again. I
paused here on second 53 for just a second. Outside of Oktoberfest, I mean, when do you dress like some of these guys?
Yeah, wearing, what is it called, lederhosen?
I don't know what this vest is the one guy in the foreground has, but they all look like they've just escaped from a play.
Right.
They do.
It's just it's
a play of Frankenstein.
It's very dated.
Right. They're almost like the cast of Young Frankenstein the musical.
Right.
This is where they go when they're in between rehearsals. Right. They go to the angry town hall meetings.
Yeah.
Well, as we begin to wrap up this minute, because we are about to be introduced to a pivotal character that is actually not yet even revealed or seen yet in this particular scene, and we need to get to it next minute. We've got an angry mob. We've got a guy stirring up the pot. We've got the elders trying to keep everything under control. Walt, do you have anything that we forgot to mention in this minute?
Well, I do find it interesting what he is saying, and that he is basically kind of the voice of the mob, but he's very anti-science, and he's very anti-scientific, and he stands in stark contrast to Dr. Frankenstein, who is all about science. This guy science is terrible. Those scientists tell us that they're trying to help us, but they're really trying to take over the world. And he's almost like kind of the Alex Jones of the neighborhood. He's this kind of lunatic fringe, but he is definitely stirring the crowd up in his direction.
I'm telling you, they're here to take over the world.
Yeah, exactly. And so he is really, really stirring it up. But I don't know if you recognize this guy. I had to go look at him. That actor is a guy named Max Wagner. He played in my favorite Star Trek episode, and that is...
Oh, get out of here.
No, he was in City on the Edge of Forever. He was one of the red shirts that went down to the planet. And
really?
Yeah. And if you go look at him, you'll recognize him, but he played in all kinds of stuff.
So we got more lines here.
Well, he definitely did. Yeah, I don't even know if he got a line in the Star Trek episode, but so he does kind of bring that contrast of the scientific Dr. Frankenstein.
Scientists are here to be feared, not respected.
Exactly. And that really would have to play to the crowd in Transylvania that, look, we've been through this 5 times, and here we go again. So he definitely has a pivotal part in stirring up the crowd.
It's interesting, though, because we know the story. He's not wrong.
He is not wrong.
To reject science, at least to reject Frankenstein science.
Yeah, Frankenscience.
Frankenscience. All right, Tom, what about you? Anything we haven't touched on in this minute before we continue into this mob scene?
I just wanted to say that this guy that we're talking about, this is a kind of acting that you really do not see anymore. Like, I don't think it made it out of the 70s, really. It's like this very just almost Shatnerish in a way, like just kind of like, just using every part of his body and he's in a movie and the camera's right like feet from him, but he's absolutely playing to the back row of the theater. He's like really overdoing it and like, and not in a bad way. It's like, he's painting a picture or something, but like his hair is shaking and his hands are slapping and he's like, and like he's using every part of his body with every word he says and stuff. And I wish I could think of other examples, but it seems like you see a lot of that in like the early 70s and late 60s or something. And I don't know if it's like I guess it was like a theatrical thing back then, but I don't even know if like today, if you see that kind of acting even in the theater necessarily, that kind of super over the top, like just cranked up to 11 kind of stuff that he's doing.
That's a great comment. It's exactly like what you would expect in like your community theater with the person who thinks that this is how you get dramatic. Everything's got to be whipping and thrashing and flying around and punctuating all of your lines. Yeah,
this is my only scene.
Look at me, damn it.
Well, the other place that you see it in another movie that same year is the scene in the church in Blazing Saddles.
Oh, we the white God-fearing residents of Rockridge.
Yep, and you have it with that guy who speaks in gibberish. The overacting and the...
Are you talking about Gabby Johnson?
Yeah, Gabby Johnson.
Hey, nowhere gonna leave this down.
But if you go look at the Gabby Johnson scene from Blazing Saddles, it is almost step per step this guy, because
you're right.
It is the over the top.
It's a recreation of the town meeting instead of a church meeting.
It's
the town hall.
Absolutely.
But holy crap.
That's amazing.
Wait a minute. Mel Brooks reusing material?
I know. It's crazy.
I can't wait till we get to Blazing Saddles.
This is going to be awesome.
We're going to have R-rated content, unfortunately. But, it is what it is. All right. Well, Tom, thank you for being here. We want one more day of your time. Can we squeeze one more day before you guys got to go back to searching for the Holy Grail?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I left my friends back in the catacombs under Venice. I better get back to them at some point. But yes, I can absolutely stick around for another day.
At least they've got the rats to keep them company.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody does want to get back to where you guys like to play normally, you've got a couple of different podcasts. One that really puts you guys on the map and you guys are like hot commodities. Everybody wants you to join their podcast. So we appreciate you taking time to be here over in the Young Frankenstein world. But where can people find you?
They can find the Indiana Jones Minute at indianajonesminute.com. They can find ABC Devo at the same thing, but .com with that at the end, too. You can also find the Movie Hole podcast at movieholepodcast.com, where we're about to or currently doing the Blues Brothers, depending on how much of our act we've got together at this point.
And people who are fans of the old-fashioned looking at, those little strange symbols that are all collected in order in pages that you actually have to turn, you actually have a book.
Books. Yeah. I do, yeah. I published a book in memory of Todd Woods, which is a young adult novel, and it's pretty good. And you can check it out. You can find it at iamtomtaylor.com. where you can find that and some bloggy stuff and links to the shows and everything. And you can get the book on the Kindle and stuff like that.
Check it out.
Or even actual physical hard copy if you want to.
Check it out. iamtomtaylor.com, and that gets you everywhere you need to get to find more about Tom Taylor.
Yeah.
Walt, if somebody wants to learn, I'm not sure why, but learn more about us, where do they go?
Yeah, if you're crazy and want to learn about us, best place to find us is www. I said it again. I'm sorry, http.
Stop it!
thewilderride.com or facebook.com/thewilderride. And you can find out everything you want to know about us and more.
And certainly go check out all of the different ways you can download the show, have it, save it, watch it, play it, listen to it. And yes, you can watch it because we actually have a YouTube channel. Now you're going to just stare at the wallpaper the whole time, but at least you can go to YouTube and watch or listen. if you want. And of course, we're your typical podcatchers anywhere you listen. And we want you to come back tomorrow because as we close out the work week, we do have this town hall meeting being called to order, and we get introduced to Inspector Kemp standing prominently in front of a painting.
You have a lot to look forward to with Inspector Kemp tomorrow.
Until tomorrow.
Frankenstein.
Frankenplosion.
Frankenscience.
Frankenscience. What did he say? Perfect Nugan.
So you're going to have to edit out that part that I had in there because Max Wagner is actually the citizen. You want me to just kind of back up and say the two?
I'll do some editing magic around
that,
your lack of actually taking this seriously.
Well, I took it seriously. I just didn't make a note in the right place. So